Before starting, I would request all the speakers and all the participants to please switch on their cameras. It would be highly grateful. All right. Yes. So a very good evening to all of you. So welcome you all to today's Policy Manthan discussion. So as we know, the topic for today's Policy Manthan discussion is educating girls to reduce child marriages. So as we all know that females make up the 50% of our population, of India's population, and in fact of any other country's population, right? And as Jawaharlal Nehru has very famously said that if you educate a man, you just educate one person, but if you educate a female, you educate the entire family. So it is very important, crucial for countries and for everybody to be striving to educate the female children. And as the data shows that if we look at India's data sets or data numbers, so as per the census of 2011, the overall literacy in India is around 74%. While when we see the literacy rates for males, it is about 82%. But when we see the literacy rates for females, so they're close to 65%. So we can clearly see a gap between the literacy rates of male and female. And this in other ways turns into lesser brighter perspectives for females. And this also leads to other social ills, such as child marriages, about which we're going to be talking about. And according to UNICEF's data, it is shown that India has close to 1/3 child brides, around 223 million. So that is a very high number, and India should be striving to lower this number. So before starting off, I would request all the speakers to please put in their names along with the topics that they want to be speaking about. So in the meanwhile, you guys please go ahead and please put in the chat box your names and the topics that you want to be discussing about. Before that, I would want Vandrila to please go forward as. Yes, Vandrila, you may go forward.
Hello, everyone. So the topic for today is educating girl child to reduce child marriages. So when we talk about child marriages, so when we talk about the education, so when girls are educated, they are more likely to understand their rights and to have the skills and confidence to make decisions about their own lives. This includes decisions about marriage and when to start a family. This is very important because this, see, early child marriage, it not only results in, the lack of education for the child, it also results in early childbearing, which increases the infant mortality rate and also the maternal mortality rate. So it impacts the entire demography of a country, you can say. So so education also improves economic opportunities for girls and their families, which can reduce the financial incentives for child marriage. Studies have shown that girls with more years of education are less likely to marry as children and have fewer children overall. So education also helps to break the cycle of poverty, which is a major factor driving child marriage. In addition to the individual benefits of education, educating girls can also have a positive impact on the entire community. Educated girls are more likely to become leaders and role models in their communities, which can help to shift social norms and attitudes towards child marriage. These also tend to have better health outcomes and are more likely to pass on the benefits of education to their own children. However, education alone is not sufficient to end child marriage. It must be combined with other interventions such as legal and policy changes, community mobilization and empowerment, and access to sexual and reproductive health services. Additionally, addressing the root cause of child marriage, such as poverty and gender discrimination, is crucial to achieving sustainable changes. So when girls are educated in a society, we can see that in 1 or 2 generations, these families are able to break out of the vicious cycle of poverty. So if girls are educated, it acts as a you just said that if a girl is educated, the entire family is educated. So it creates a very long-term impact on the economy and helps improve the entire demography of the economy. Very significant. That's all I would want to say.
All right. Thank you so much, Vaindra, for the starting, for making out a proper base for us to have been informed and nice discussion from here on. So, as you've rightly mentioned, that educating the girl child not just would reduce the number of child marriages, but it would also have an impact on the health also, which forms a very important indicator of the Human Development Index. It will also have positive impacts on economy, because as females would be educated, so they would be also an important contributing factor to the economic growth, which in fact would further increase the gross domestic product of our country. So therefore, it is very important to educate the female child, because this obviously has a very long-term effect for the nation, and it will reap in positive benefits for the country. Okay, so moving forward, our next speaker is Pritika. She is going to be talking about the importance of education among girls and some data points, and she would be briefly touching upon some policy interventions in the field of educating female child. Yes, Pritika, please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes,
I hope I'm audible.
yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so I would like to highlight about the importance of education among girls and women and how it would help them understand themselves and their rights. So, if we educate women and girls, especially, what happens is they understand better themselves about hygiene, about their health, about menstrual hygiene, and their rights also. I think if I talk about a social stigma, then most females have internalized within them that they deserve less, and they do not have rights, that they do not have equal rights. But that is not the case in reality. We have laws we to protect them. We have many interventions socially and among other organizations to protect them. So the importance of education among girls is that they understand themselves better. They understand their social stand, where do they stand in the society, and their rights also. So accordingly, there's some challenges with educating females, like most of in the rural areas, especially. Let's take a rural area. What happens is, uh, girls, since they have internalized that they deserve less, they have seen uh, like women getting married in their families earlier, women not doing jobs, women not earning, and in most cases they have also seen domestic violence as well. So according to them, it is all right not to get educated, it is all right to be in a child marriage, and in some cases they are forced, and in some cases they break the barriers themselves. So it happens in the extreme, there is no balance. uh, in some cases they are forced and they just accept the situation. Because why? Because they do not know what they deserve. They are not educated, they are not literate, they do not know what their rights are. So also, in cases of child marriages, what happens is, the both side of the families, the people who are getting married, both side of the families, they agree. There's a mutual agreement between them. So it's not that there is no personal thing going on, which is like nobody reports it to the police or to the government, that this thing is happening in this place, which is not right, which is not correct. Lawfully it is illegal. So what happens is, there are so many cases which remains hidden in the society, that suppose there's an area. I just saw some data that in 2020 child marriages increased to 50%, because there was no intervention legally, because there was absence of the NGOs and the organizations that work towards eradicating child marriages. Between 2006 to 2016, there was a sharp decline of 21% of child marriages in India. But in 2020, it again increased by 50%. And if we connect the dots, it was probably because so many children lost access to education also. Since they lost their access to education, and girls, especially in rural areas, they're considered as a liability. So when they lost access to education, then what happened was, families, they thought that it would be better to get them married. Unfortunately, that is a social stigma that we need to fight off. And coming to policy interventions, India does have a law to prevent child marriages, but the issue here is that when two families, as I said earlier, when two families agree to get the child get married, nobody is there to report the incident. And this is what happened in the COVID, that nobody was there to supervise these incidents, to monitor such cases and report it legally. And hence, these monitoring is so difficult. So these child marriages are bound to increase. But yes, education can help, because if girls, especially girls, if they're educated, they know about their rights, they know that this is illegal. There must be so many women who, like, they do not even know that what is happening to them, like they are being forced into such stuffs that is not even legal. They do not know, they're not aware of their rights. So education is what they're, I mean, education can help them break the barriers. It can help them counter the society's norms and the places that they live in, and create a space for themselves that is safe. So yeah, that's it. That's my time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pratika. Yes, as you've rightly mentioned, that women feel that they do not have any integrity over their own bodies, and also since they do not have any rights or they do not have any education, so they are not aware of their rights per se. So that further increases the problem, because they obviously feel that, as the family says, that would be the best cause for their own life. So because the family knows what is best for them, so that, therefore, it is very important for females to be educated. As during COVID, there has been numerous case studies that, due to lack of access to education, and also a closure of schools and other things, also poverty, for example, increased the instances of child marriages in the country. So yes. Yes. In the meanwhile, we have a speaker who has raised their hand. Yes, Kirti.
I would like to point out that I kind of agree with Pritika a lot, because as you mentioned that women are not even aware of their rights on their very own body. So the thing is that what I have figured out joining the dots together is that the rights on if you see, healthcare, education and economy are altogether connected in some ways, right? So if like I read somewhere, there was an article probably published by Times of India, where they say that there has not been a lot done on, healthcare system which is related to women. Like there has not been a lot of developments. As you know, that recently there was a lot of upsurge in United States as well regarding abortion and all. So what I mean to say here is that we don't have enough representatives of healthcare related to women's issues in the healthcare infrastructure, and that's because of the lack of education. So once we don't have the representatives there, they do not women, the issue of a woman is more likely to be conveyed in a better manner or understood in a better manner by a woman itself, right? So if healthcare infrastructure does not have women, so of course there is going to be some mismatch of education. So I think that actually is a very important factor that makes a lot of impact there.
Yes, thank you so much for your great inputs, because obviously, starting from our parliamentarians itself, we have very less female representation. So, for instance, imagine if a law is being drafted with respect to women, which affects women on a very large scale, but that is being drafted by males. So, how do they know what are the issues that women actually face? On a surface level, they might feel that, okay, this is the issue that females face, but on a deeper level, what if the root cause of the problem is something else? So that is why everywhere, not just with respect to healthcare, but everywhere we need more female representation, because clearly females form 50% of the population. So equally, there has to be equal representation of females everywhere. So yes, now moving forward, let me just see. Yes. So we have Sambhavi. She would be speaking about the challenges to female education in India. Yes, Sambhavi, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Purva. First of all, I would really like to agree and appreciate the speakers before me. That's Ritika and Vandrila. I do agree that female education actually plays a vital role when it comes to providing women that agency and that empowerment that they do matter. And they do are in charge of the decisions of their life. So speaking of the challenges to the female education in India, it's like a lot. First of all, it rightly starts off from the preference to the male child, because a lot of we know that around more than half of India's population live in the rural areas, and a lot of them are below the poverty line and hence have very limited resources. So they do prefer the male child, and they do prefer investing in the male child, because there is this mentality that okay, the male child later grows up and they later take care of them, because there is this Hindi saying that ghar ki ladki parai hoti hai, that she will get, okay, we educate her, but then she gets married and she goes to some other person's house. So that mentality comes into picture, and they end up seeing investment in a girl's education not very profitable in that way. So that's why that becomes one major challenge when it comes to empowering women and also providing them that education. Second, a lot of schools in the rural areas are actually situated at a distance from the like a distance from the village. So there is a lot of, like, because they're situated in very remote areas, and the girls need to travel a lot, so that ends up consuming a lot of time, that ends up affecting their attendance and even their enrollment in the schools. And also there is also a situation, especially around the situation of crimes against women right now in our country, also makes it very skeptic, also makes it somewhat skeptical, like parents become skeptical to send their children to school, especially considering that scenario, especially when they have to travel a long distances. Thirdly, there is also a lot of toilets in government schools are non-existent. 40% of toilets in the government schools are non-existent according to a CAG report in 2020. So because of a lack of toilets, there is a lack of provision for girls due to during their menstrual to maintain their menstrual hygiene. And because of the once they have the menarche, a lot of girls end up dropping out of school, which ends up again affecting their education. So when you talk about these challenges, it's quite institutional, and it stems out from a lack of awareness, and also a lack of a lot of institutional problems which are there in our system, which are there in our country. So when you talk about overcoming these challenges, the solutions can be having this proper channel, so that having proper provisions so that girls do not need to travel long distances in the rural areas. At the same time, they are aware, like spreading awareness about menstrual hygiene, while at the same time, like building making sure the toilets are functional, not just built, but actually functional. And also so that actually girls and parents are incentivized to send their girls to school. So that's from my side.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Sambhavi. We have other speaker as well, Adinath, who is going to be talk about the similar topic, that is challenges faced by females. So yes, we can hear from Adinath as well.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So I will be starting with a quote by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, who says that I judge the development of the society based on the empowerment of women in that society. So why is it important? Because the girl child education, that plays a very vital role in any society. As Purva herself has started with a very beautiful quote about how educating a girl child will be a good thing, will not only be flourishing the future generations, but the country as well. So on the similar note, I would like to start with some challenges faced by women. So chronologically, since birth, what women faces, the challenges faced by women are from 0 to 5 age. There are many challenges such as female infanticide, then malnourishment, then trafficking and social stigma. From 5 years to 16 years, 5 years to 16 years, then the woman, the girl child is kept in controlled environment. She is a stereotype, gender stereotyping happen. After that, lack of education. Then she is subjected to home chores and inadequate knowledge about hygiene and menstruation. Then sexual abuse and eve teasing is very common. After that, gendered clothes. So there is one thinker called Simon de Beauvoir who says that sex is a biological phenomena, but gender is constructed. Gender is socially constructed. So this plays a very vital role in how a uh, social system affects girl child. From 6 to 25 years of age, various challenges faced are early marriage and dowry, and commodification of marriage. After that, lack of sexual education, lack of institutional birth. Lack of institutional birth is one of the uh, very much uh, uh, very much challenging thing that the government is facing right now. After that, feminization of agriculture, migration, crimes like acid attacks, witch hunting, honor killings due to intercaste marriage, then anemic mothers due to poor maternal health, early childbirths, then lack of prenatal and postnatal facilities. So these are various challenges from 16 to 25 years of age. From 26 to 60, various challenges like property deprivation, then lack of health guidance post menopause, and less life expectancy due to lack of good nutrition at early stages of life. Even though, if we see data wise, the life expectancy is good, but comparatively, the most vulnerable section is women. So, various best practices which I found were: first is education. Education plays a very vital role because that is what really empowers women, and that is what really uh, educate them and make them aware of their rights in society, the way society functions, and how they can help in liberating the other fellow females. After that, community engagement involving various community leaders such as religious leaders, traditional leaders, parents, in preventing efforts, in prevention efforts, so that the attitudes of society is changed. After that, legal reform can play a very vital role because it is instrumental. When legal reforms are done, the society itself, it tries to mold itself in what the legal law says. After that, advocacy and awareness, then integrated approaches like girl, child, and female education is uh, very much complex, and that needs to be very comprehensively tackled. So, in the way forward, I would like to conclude by saying that we need to work together to achieve gender equality, and that will be contributing to SDG goals, which can surely improve our GDP by 27%, which is our larger goal, which will together value to India's bigger dream to become 5 trillion economy in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adira. And I really appreciate you, the last part that you've linked SDG goals to economy and to furthering India's aspirations. So yes, as our both the speakers have spoken about the challenges faced by females. So yes, there are multiple challenges that females face, and also there are challenges which also leads to low educational attainment levels of females. Yes, so moving forward now, we have Kirti. She's going to be talking about a very interesting case study with respect to the Taliban rule in Afghanistan and how there's a threat to female education under Taliban rule in Afghanistan.
Thank you, Purva. Hello, everyone. So, as Purva has told you, that I'm going to be discussing a brief case study. I chose Afghanistan because we cannot just overlook a country even if it doesn't have, let's say, geopolitical relevance, at least now as the US has withdrawn. But I'll be coming to that. So, in August 2021, Taliban grew in executive powers in Afghanistan only to establish itself as the rule in the end. And it was fueled by the non interventionist approach of the United States. It was their so called ideology that they claim that it's their non interventionist approach, but it could also be the lack of geopolitical interest. It's not relevant anymore, maybe. But anyhow, continuing further, education economy, and social governance, they altogether deteriorated in the country, Afghanistan. Now, I'll be concerned with women's education in particular in Afghanistan because it's been headlines for now, for some time, a very significant time. So, education is capable of correcting many ills in the society pertaining to women in particular, which may be early marriage, health, or even something as basic as mortality rate. We might come to things like representation in various fields, but that comes very late. Suppose if your death and life also depends on something like this, so it's very basic that they are deprived of. Now, moving further, so when Taliban rule came in power, they had promised that they are going to grant the right to education to girls, but Taliban policy backtracked. Now, what's the value of women in the society, specifically when it comes to Taliban? What they have lost when they did this? So once Taliban became the ruler of Afghanistan, the economy of Afghanistan went bankrupt, and it was not only because of the sanctions, but also because women's participation reduced in Afghanistan's economy, which is a very significant factor. And in December 2022, which is very recent, armed guards kept hundreds of young women from entering university campus. Later, there was a press release by the Taliban run Higher Education Ministry that declared that the access to private and public institutions of higher education to female students shall be suspended immediately. Now, that's about higher education. It comes across as an attempt to reduce the value of women to child making machines under an institution like marriage. Now, moving further, talking about the secondary education institutions and the primary education institutions. After the takeover, 3.7 million children were out of school in Afghanistan, and it's a report by Malala Fund. And 1.2 million girls lost access to secondary education. Now, Malala Yousafzai did say that education is neither east or west, but it's human. But the question remains, is it? The access to education is hindered due to complex intersectionalities. For example, if a country is located in the Middle East, and if it is dominated by any specific religion, say for instance, in this case, it's Islamic, with a non-complying outfit which has once been recognized as a terrorist outfit, acting as the government, isn't the education easier for some and difficult for others? Yes, it is so. Specifically, when there is a case of intersectionality, when religion, caste, your country, region, and your gender, everything intersects altogether. While the resistance against Taliban persists in Afghanistan, the loss of years of formal education amongst women will be recorded tragically as a history that would take years of affirmative actions to serve that retrospective justice. So there is this thing about retrospective justice, but it will come years later, maybe 50 or 100 years from now. That's more than a century. And this is just a vague guess. Now, to elevate the situation a little, higher education institutions in many countries welcome female students from Afghanistan to study in their institutions. But there is really more that needs to be done, because these are not statistics, these are people. These women are people, and we need to keep that in mind. More than any institution, more than country's economy, more than the global economy, these are people. I think that is very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirti, for always bringing such interesting discussion and also taking the discussion to another level, because obviously we should not be just restricting the debate with respect to education and child marriages. And it's not just limited to education and child marriages, sorry, but there are other factors at play as well, which might not be visible to us. So yes, obviously we should also be looking at our neighbor, that is Afghanistan, because obviously females are a human being and they also deserve equal rights as their male counterparts. So yes, now moving forward, we have Premraj, who is going to be talking about basically understanding the intersections between gender, social class, economic status. So for us to understand this topic better.
Hello, everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So basically, I'm talking about educating women reduce child marriage, but it does not empower women fully. Because if you look at data, in last 8 years, the female labor participation rate is reduced to like 25%, but the literacy rate is rising every year. If I give you like an example, like if a society is getting rich, it believes that it will give more rights to women.
Prebraj, sorry to interrupt, but could you please speak a little louder?
Okay. Of course. I want to give a data. Like if you look at like two states, if I want to compare, like Haryana is like one of the richest states in India with its average GSDP per capita income of around 3 lakhs. If you compare it with Kerala, which has a female literacy rate of 96% according to 2011 census, it has a GDP per capita of around 2 lakh rupees. So if you just look at socio-economic indicator, it feels like Haryana should give more rights to its women, but it is a worst performing state in terms of women. Like gender ratio is around 900 women per 1,000 male. And like if you go on the street of Haryana, it feels like Haryana is 80% men and 20% women, which is like not right. Or if I give to like Haryana in terms of like underage marriages, like 20%. Basically, I want to focus on basically I want to focus that if you want to give women more empowerment, educating is not only the solution, because women are getting educated every year, but they're not entering the labor job market because the society is still very patriarchal and it's very controlling of women. If I can give some like personal example, like I am from Haryana, the minimum age is still 18, but like women even who are from the upper middle class societies get married at like 21, 22, and they have no say for it. And that need to change. Like as a society, we are at that level that we are not able to provide safety to women, that we have to allocate women only berth or women only coach and metro so they can feel safe. That, that's uh, that's all from my side for now.
Thank you so much, Premraj. Let me go forward. Okay, so if I can just plug in for a while. So yes, we need to also clearly understand the intersections between socio-economic status of female, because, for instance, the female belonging to Dalit community or the Adivasi community, they are under double deprivation, right? Because first of all, their caste is lower, so society, at least Indian society, values caste to a very large extent, and again, they're poor socio-economic status. So again, they're under double burden, and again, they're further deprived of multiple things. So now moving forward, Chandrika would be talking about way forward in solutions for better understanding other aspects with respect to female education and reducing child marriages.
Yes, Purvadi, I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So today I'll be focusing on Dalit women's education. So as Purvadi mentioned, there is a double burden, but I think there is a triple burden over the Dalit of women's. It's caste discrimination, gender bias, and economic deprivation. So, but today I will be focusing education in Dalit community. So the main concern here is that increasing efforts to eliminate caste discrimination, which is combined with an additional attempt to increase the accessibility and appeal for education, have contributed to the slow progression of Dalit education, which is the main concern and which is most important thing that we forget today. So now we can say that there is a reservation. But if we look back in 1946, there is a lady called Dakshayini Velayudhan. She was the only women Dalit member of Constituent Assembly. And she said that in a Constituent Assembly that as long as the scheduled caste or the Harijans or whatever name they may be called are economic slaves of other people, and there is no meaning demanding either separate electorate or joint electorate or any kind of reservation. But here I think reservation is a subjective subject or thing. So let's look at the solution. So I think most and primary solution is the government would focus first on increasing access to primary education, because compared to secondary and university level education, rates of written backs are highest for primary education in Dalit women's communities, which means that the cost associated with providing basic education are much lower than the benefits which are received from learning to read and write. Another solution would be students or interested youth like us can go to the so-called backward states or backward areas, where we can give information to women about the pregnancy and the care to be taken at that time, then personal hygiene, menstruation, and importance of education for girls, so that they will not be afraid to send their daughters to school, and it will lead to reduce the incidences of girl-child marriage. And the last and very, very important solution to this is that in many schools, especially in government school, the attendance sheet is made on the basis of caste. So I think this is a primary stage and early stage where the child knows about the caste, creed, religion, sex, or gender, such terms. So I think here is the role of teacher is very, very important. So I think teachers training not only contain aspects of training or teaching only, but also teachers should be molded socially and culturally, so that the incidences like raping of Dalit girl in Rajasthan by her school teacher won't be happen further. At the primary stage of childish schooling, teacher can organize many games where he or she should concern about that the equal participation of the children. Another important aspect is the seating arrangement in class, where the teacher should make child sit on one bench, that a girl and a boy on the same bench, so that the child will learn the virtue of non-discrimination between the caste and gender equality from its early or primary stage. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Chandrika. Yes, as we all know, with respect to female education, there are different problems that needs to be tackled. For example, as we know that Dalits form 15% of our population and Adivasis form 8% of the population. So it is also very important to look at individual needs of the community, because their needs are different from the needs of mainstream upper caste females, and also the challenges that are faced by different communities are different. So in order to bring in some policies, some changes, we need to also look at the different needs, and also we need to derive it tailor-made solutions so as to bring in effective and positive changes. Now, moving forward, we have our speakers who would be basically talking about policies and programs and the interventions by state governments to reduce child marriages. So first of all, I would like to welcome Shrestha to talk about female education policies and programs. Yes, Shrestha? I think Shrestha is having some issue. So yes, we'll start off with Swarali then. Yes, Swarali, please go forward.
Yeah. So I so truly agree with the statement I read that child marriage is violation of human rights and violence against girls. And the importance of educating girls to reduce the child marriages cases is so truly said and told by my colleagues before me. I just want to highlight a report by CRY Foundation, which directly links the better quality education and higher literacy among women to the lower cases of child marriages, and a report by UNICEF that claims that secondary education can reduce the child marriage by 66%. Now, as we know, poverty is one of the main reasons for child marriages. So the families with low income are hesitant to invest further increase their expenditure in educating the female child, which can be easily married at an early age. Therefore, an important aspect here would be to provide economic support or incentives like scholarships to these female children at an early age, so that the education expenditure is not a burden to their family. Also, the Odisha's Ganjam district has declared itself as a child marriage free district recently, and the policy it has adopted to attain that is a simple procedure called Nirbhaya Kadi program. In that, the girls aged 12 to 18 who will remain absent for more than 5 days in the school are the educational authorities are uh, asked to contact the Nirbhaya Kadi programs, so that then they are investigated and counseled. So by this method, they have restricted and reduced a large number of child marriages, and also they provide a 5,000 incentive to people who will inform about the child marriages. This incentive has increased to 50,000 now. And also in Rajasthan, where child marriage is quite prevalent, a Nobat Baja project is been implemented by the Jeevan Ashram Sanstha, that is an NGO, with with the collaboration of UN and the Department of Women Empowerment of Rajasthan. It relies on the strength of mobile phones, as we all are so aware, and we are so linked with our phones that they are using this mobile phones to spread awareness as well as help those people who are forcefully engaged in child marriage. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Varadi. Let me just check in if Shrestha is there. I think Shrestha is not there. So yes, anybody would like to raise in some? Yes. Okay, Kirti. Yes.
Yes, so I agreed to Chandralekha to like a significant extent. She was talking about intersectionalities, but there was one place where I would point out something, and it was about reservation. So reservation is something that I was referring to as retrospective justice before. So what is retrospective justice? Retrospective, you might already be aware of that, but for like everybody's awareness, I'll just go on. So retrospective justice, if somebody has been historically wronged, so there is an authority which makes sure that we are going to provide some benefits to them that could, if not make up for the damage done to them, but still at least appear as justice on the surface, let's say, if I'm not being too pessimistic. So there are two sorts of it, maybe three, but for the timing, I just have two in my mind, and that's affirmative actions and reparation. So reservation comes under the category of affirmative actions. So these communities have been historically wronged, and we don't get to decide when to withdraw reservation for the time being. So I don't really think that it's a subjective matter. It objectively needs to be there because we have not been able to omit the caste discrimination for the time being. And second, we are talking about omitting that from the picture because it's at local level inflicted. Think about something that has been inflicted at international level and compare yourself with that. So at international level, there was colonization, right? And colonization, they were providing reparation for that, like Nigerian communities, the communities, African communities, where the damage was done by the colonies. There is reformative reparation there and retrospective justice. So we just can't say that it is a subjective matter. It's a globally accepted matter that we need to serve retrospective justice. We can't just avoid it randomly.
Okay, so if I don't know if I might be sounding correct, if I can speak on behalf of Chandralekha, she may correct me. Okay, if I what I got from when she spoke of reservation being a subjective thing, what I basically understood was because in India, if you see the debate around reservation, right, there are people who support it, there are people who oppose it. So I think maybe she was referring to that. I'm not very sure. So maybe Chandralekha, you can clear things for us.
Yeah. Your aspect is correct.
Yeah, I get that. So it's just that I did get her point of view. I just wanted to say that my opinion per se, that my opinion would be that it doesn't come as subjective to me. It seems very objective to me with all the intersectionalities that Chandralekha herself offered.
No, because why one point that I can put in is that a lot of people, if you consider reservation, for example. So within the Dalit community itself, there has been certain section of the Dalit community which has been continuously benefiting out of
Right,
reservation, right? But
right.
then there are actually those people who actually need this benefit of reservation, they're kept
Correct,
out of the reservation, right? There was
correct.
this thing about this tribal lady from Kerala. She became the first IAS officer from the Kerala, from her community. And that too, this was like 2 years ago. I don't remember exactly, but imagine, I mean, it has taken us so many years after independence. Our
Yes,
constitution came in force in 1950. And after that, like she was the first person. So there has been
right.
certain communities from the Dalit community or from the Adivasi community, tribal community, they've benefited immensely out of reservation, but there are actually certain communities which need reservation. So
Exactly. So that's the thing, population is not homogeneous, it's heterogeneous. Some people have been benefited and some have not been touched yet. So we can't just say that we can withdraw this provision altogether. It has to stay there because it's working, right?
yes, obviously, I mean, we need to maybe bring in certain policy interventions, maybe,
Yeah, maybe refine it further.
yes, maybe for say, I mean, this is just my point of view that I often discuss with my friend, that maybe they can, consider giving reservation to like maybe 3 generations or 4 generations, but after that they should maybe discontinue reservation to that certain family, right? If like their parents, grandparents, and great grandparents have been government servers, so whatever, I mean, if they've availed reservation and they've benefited out of it, so maybe government can discontinue giving reservation, in that place, somebody else who is much more needier can get the benefit out of
Yeah,
reservation.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And can I like compliment Chandralekha? I just adored the solutions that she offered. I mean, they were amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks,
um
Kirti.
Anybody
Uh,
else?
Purvadi, I want to
Yes,
add something.
sure.
You and Kirti was saying that, I mean, reservation is objective according to Kirti, but I think despite of reservation, if you look at the enrollment ratio of girls in SC or ST categories, it is very low even of reservation. And if you look at, I think 7th Jan's Indian Express, there is a report, right? I think a report on judiciary participation of women and men on caste wise, like journal category, OBC, ST, and ST. So women's ratio of scheduled caste is 0.01% only in judiciary. So I think reservation is not working at grassroots level. So
Okay, so
I
if
said that a reservation is a subjective thing.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but just the thing, reservation, as per my knowledge, does not apply to judiciary. There is no reservation. I mean, if you look at the judges per se, so there's collegium system, right? And collegium system has not been clearly defined by the Supreme Court of India. They've brought in certain changes after the first judge's case, second judge's case, third judge's case.
There is a collegium. I know there is a collegium, but I want to focus on educational institutions where they learn the what bachelor's LLB or degree courses for.
Yeah, so I think what I personally feel is that herein reservation does not come into play as much as removing the social stigma around Dalit education, Dalit female education, right? Or improving their maybe economic condition, right? Because those are the factors which play more importance, much more importance than reservation. Because obviously, if those limiting factors are not there for females, so they're free to choose and free to decide, like they have autonomy on themselves. They're free to decide whatever the right course of action that they feel about themselves. So yeah, anybody
And
else?
one more thing, Vadi.
Yes.
I think we rely more on government just policy for the inclusion of SCs and STs. So I think we can step forward. So I think people like us in society should come together, form organizations, exchange the ideas, and take steps for the Dalit girls and their education, rather than relying more on government just policy.
Yes. So I watched a very interesting video of some person. I don't remember their name, but they've worked in the consulting domain. So they said the previous generation has brought in so many problems for our generation to bring in positive changes. So obviously, it is this generation that is gonna bring positive changes, because through education, through awareness, we are getting aware of so many aspects that aid the society, right? So yeah. Anybody else apart from me, Katie, Chandralekha? Somebody else, guys? If you have some interesting observations, so yeah. No? All right. Just a second. Can somebody please take the screenshot? And all of you, please switch on your cameras, and whoever is volunteering, just let me know, please. Somebody volunteering?
I'm doing
Guys,
it.
please switch on your camera. No, yeah, all right. Prem, Anjali, Shreya. Who else? Yes. Yeah. Everybody smile.